So the first step to the hunt system is identifying the obstacles. So on every hunt that you go on, you need to know the terrain that you're walking into. You need to know what is the prevailing wind direction. You need to understand what way can I enter to move into hunt. And the same thing is true in business, right? When you're starting a business model, you need to identify, where are the kick in the you-know-what's going to sit? Where are those obstacles going to lie? But something I figured out through the years is that we think of obstacles as external variables, but that's really not what typically gets in the way of success. What typically gets in the way of you hitting those targets that are right there in your hands are internal obstacles. And what you see here are a bunch of darts missing their target. And when I say I can relate to this, as a kid, I literally was so ADD, and I had this hyperactive, imaginative mind, and I would literally chew on shirt sleeves because I was so hyper. And my mother, somewhere between a stroke of brilliance or perhaps genuinely fearing for the home furnishings next, she gave me a shoelace, much like this shoelace that I'm carrying here with me tonight. And as a kid, I would use this lace, and I would work like so, and it would actually become a visual portal tool for me. And I was able to have imaginary characters, sports leagues. It's why for Emmanuel Stewart, bless his soul, I was able to commentate and MC the boxing matches. And the reason I was so good at it was as a kid, I really liked boxing. And so I had like thousands of these boxing matches. Anyhow, as I continued to grow up, this same lace, it moved from being an imagination tool to a visual tool, which helped me focus. It helped me identify where I was at point A, see my way to point B, and then understand visually how I was going to get there. And each of us, guaranteed, all of you have secret weapons. You may or may not realize them. Perhaps they're affirmations. They could be a prayer. They could be a music routine. They could be something that you wear. But you do this largely to help you hit the targets that you're after in life. And these internal variables, we need these secret weapons. We need these things that help us. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no stupid secret weapon. If it helps you get past barriers, and if it helps you hit the targets that you're after, well, then they're good secret weapons. So for many people, the problem begins early in the hunt, right? You don't know which road to take or which path to follow. How many times have you found yourselves stuck? I know I found myself plenty of times on not knowing what to work on next. What should I do next? You see, the clearer your targets become, the clearer those answers become with the path you need to take. And if you thought about hunters back in the day, cavemen, if they didn't know which path to take, their families would starve. And while your families will not starve, your inner soul, that drive, that inside of you that wants to hit those targets, it starves instead. And then there's perspective, right? Here's this little boy looking at this shadow of this big monster. But it's not a monster, it's the shadow of this little boy. See, how many times have you freaked out before you knew the facts on something, right? You think what's about to happen is the worst thing in the world, and you have created 50 ways to the moon of how it's going to end up becoming a disaster. But you don't have the facts yet. You don't have the data. You're making this up in your head. That is losing perspective. Now let me ask this. Once you do that, right, when you actually then get the facts and the data, what do you discover most of the time? Right? What happens to that big problem when you actually get the facts or the data? Not a big deal, right? It's no big deal. Exactly. That's losing perspective. And it's dangerous as heck when we're trying to go out there and accomplish goals. Because when perspective is lost, you come off course from the targets that you're after. And when you lose perspective, it's going to make those things that you're writing that are most important to you in the hunt of your lives really difficult to go out and hit. And believe it or not, most of these issues, right, they stem from emotions or feelings, right? Guilt, shame, insufficiencies, things that often start at childhood. Sometimes they develop later in life. And they seem harmless, right? They seem harmless, but they're not harmless. They're cancerous, and they get in the way of the targets that you're after. How many times have you found yourself, I know I've done it a lot, where you're so close to closing a deal, you're so close to accomplishing something huge, and then something inside you, it starts to question whether or not this is going to happen, or should I be able to do this? And you think it's harmless, or you get a little shy, or you tighten up. This is emotions that are messing with you. It's internal variables that are blocking you from getting the targets that you're after. We all go through it, and there is a system to get past these things. And today we're going to talk about